Hi, we're Chops Horns. I'm Darryl Dixon.
I'm Dave Watson, the Yes Yes Man.
And you are listening to Musicians Reveal with Joe Kelley.
Because he's the man.
Come on now, groove me, baby. Hey!
My next guest here on Musicians Reveal, longtime friends. They're phenomenal musicians. They visited the studios when we were at WVOF, and we haven't talked to them in a few years, but Darryl Dixon, Dave Doc Watson, they are the Chop Horns. They've known each other for more than 30 years, worked together for that. They have been on Alicia Keys records, toured with Alicia Keys, P-Funk, Rolling Stones, Bob Dylan, OJ's, and the Police, and many, many more, and the Sugar Hill Gang collection, Sugar Hill Gang Records. We welcome once again Darryl Dixon and Dave Watson. How you guys doing?
All right.
All right. So we're so thankful that you don't forget about us.
No. I mean, I was listening the other day of like the Groove Me and everything like that. I mean,
Okay.
there's no slacking on the music that you guys have created over the years.
Mm-hmm.
Well, I kind of consider Chops Horns the unsung heroes because we kind of travel under the radar. You know, we're not known by a lot of folk, but there is a definite thing going on with the in the industry.
Right.
You know, industry people know us, and a lot of people have heard us. Like you mentioned Sugar Hill. You know, the Sugar Hill and Grandmaster Flash back in the late 70s. We were the in-house horn section and recorded all their stuff, all the horn stuff. And most of the arrangements were done by a gentleman named Jiggs Chase, who was a jazz organist.
Okay.
But you know, people heard us, and one of the funny things back then was after we finished doing a good amount of their recording, we landed the Police job, where we were the horn section for the Police, and we did their Ghost in the Machine tour.
Wow.
And I can remember in more than one occasions either going to the airport in a taxi or coming back from the airport in a taxi and hearing Sugar Hill or Grandmaster Flash on the radio. So we were touring and being heard, you know, on the radio with these horn licks. And some of them have been copied by a lot of folk, right, Darryl?
Yes, a lot of it's been sampled by different groups and artists, like Public Enemy and SWV. You know, they've been, and it's really a compliment. You know that when they sample that stuff, that's just it's more publicity for us as far as what we can. It shows our reach, our musical reach.
The only sad thing about that is a lot of times when you hear the sample, you don't realize it's us. And Sugar Hill, they're the ones making the money off of it.
Yeah. I was going to ask you if you had to turn down somebody's song, or was that their decision, Sugar Hill's decision?
Yeah, that was Sugar Hill's decision.
Oh, okay.
Of course, we were a new horn section at the time, and they were giving us a lot of studio work. And I say we homed our sound, our studio sound at Sugar Hill Gang Records. So that's what we got out of it. And we had a lot of laughs with the musicians, with Doug and Skip. And Dennis Chambers did a good amount of sessions there with us.
Great drummer.
And one of the great drummers for Sugar Hill just recently passed.
Okay.
Yeah, Keith
LeBlanc.
Oh, okay. I remember the name. Yep.
Yeah, he died last year. So I kind of feel we're blessed to still work. I mean,
I know.
I'm working on a solo smooth jazz project, and it's going to be entitled "Tip My Hat." And I'm tipping my hat to musicians that I love, and I'm tipping my hat to my dad because he played saxophone as well. Now, on a side note, Darryl's in the studio doing him, and he has no intention of releasing any of this stuff because he's just having fun.
Yeah, just to clarify, it's basically a labor of love for me, actually, because I'm doing something I always wanted to do, which was to redo songs that I've always liked, but kind of redoing them my way, add my arrangement flavor to songs that, I mean, and these is, and they run the gamut from standards to, to funk. I take other, like, say, rhythm tracks of other artists, and I put horns to them. And it's something that I've always wanted to do, because I was always curious, like the songs that I like. I wonder how they would have turned out if I'd have done them the way I would have done them.
Right.
And so, but it's not something that I'm putting out. I'm not, it's just something that I happen to have the opportunity to be able to do this now, so I'm doing it.
So what? Oh, go ahead, Dave.
That's what he said.
Yeah. So is there going to be any pressure for competing double albums?
No, but what I am doing, and I have been doing for the last couple months, is I'm lobbying with Mr. Dixon right here.
Okay. Yeah, you're buddy for years.
Yeah, to get him to put some of that stuff out. Now, I know he's not really fond of that. And if he doesn't want to put it out, as a Darryl Dixon project, I'd be more than happy to put one or two of his songs on my project. Because, what Darryl does has been has had a big influence on my horn arrangements, on my playing, and just on my overall musical talents. I've listened and copied a lot of this guy, and now that he's getting a little older, I think he needs to get his due, because there are folks that have worked with some of the great funk guys, and Darryl is forgotten. Folks forget that he played the sax solo on Flashlight.
Yep.
That was Darryl.
Another thing I want to clarify is, a lot of people in the funk community, thanks to YouTube and different podcast programs that funk people have, right? Like Tim Kinley and other people. I mean, they realize my contributions to the whole funk genre, but I just need to clarify, when you had said any competition from competing albums. First of all, like Dave is doing a smooth jazz CD, on the smooth jazz side. Mm-hmm. I'm not a smooth jazz person. I like smooth jazz to a point, but then what happens is, to my musical sensibilities, a lot of the I put it like this: if I did an arrangement on a smooth jazz tune, a lot of artists would say, "Well, it's too busy," or "It's too," okay. It's just that I just like to kind of push the musical envelope just a little bit further than what smooth jazz will allow me to do, or what record labels that promote smooth jazz, I mean, I've heard that from some people. A guy that we've done stuff with, Hubert Eves.
Hubert Eves, the fourth.
Yeah, the fourth.
Oh,
his father was Hubert Eves.
With D-Train, yeah.
Right, exactly.
Right.
Yeah.
And we call Hubert H4.
Yeah.
And he brought us in on quite a few of his songs.
Yeah.
And on one of his songs, the first time ever I recorded bass clarinet was on one of his songs, and the first time ever that I played an alto sax solo. Because as you know, Darryl plays mostly alto. I
Right.
play tenor, bari, and flute. And Darryl, on occasion, will sneak in the soprano. Because he's had that coverage for so many years. I don't really play much alto except for, teaching students and things of that nature.
Mhm.
And it's the same thing with Darryl on tenor. You don't get to hear him on tenor too often because that's kind of my main axe. But both of us obviously play all of the saxophones. He plays flute as well. But he mentioned about this smooth jazz thing, and I want to clarify. We have always written a lot of, quote, busy kind of things on horns. And I'm going to relate it to my teaching time. When I was teaching marching band, I used to tell the football players, and they'd get pissed off, and I wound up getting my books kicked around. And I would tell the football players, yo, people come to the games for halftime.
Right.
They come to hear the band, not to see you dudes running around catching the ball, and they used to get pissed off. And, obviously that's not the case, but that's the way I looked at it. So the same thing musically, when somebody gives us a song, we're not thinking about the vocals, or we're thinking about the horns. How can horns be highlighted? And Alicia Keys, and I think Ray Chu, who introduced us to Alicia Keys, and he's now the musical director for Dancing with the Stars for over a decade.
Okay.
They would make comments about our horn arrangements, and they were very politically correct. Now, Alicia, we'd be in the studio cutting, and she'd give us some ideas for horns, and we'd play what she wanted. And then we say, but Alicia, let us try a few things and see what you think. So then we would record some stuff that we thought was more apropos for the Chops On section. And she would say, you know what? That's really nice, but it's too busy for my record. And that was a nice way of us saying, man, I ain't putting that stuff on my record.
Yeah, well, just to add to that, Ray Chu. Now, I mean, I've learned a lot from Ray Chu. I mean, it's just from the arranging standpoint.
So have we both.
Right. Both of us have. And Ray is Ray really appreciates the ideas. Now, Ray will do like Alicia, say, well, it's too busy, and only Ray will say, you save that for your album. Yeah, but we don't need that right now. But Ray has always said, look, I'd rather have more ideas than none. I'd rather, I'd rather you guys come to me with well, what about this? What about that? Than just sit there and not contribute anything. Because he can always edit or veto whatever you say, but he'd rather have the ideas because him just like every other artist or music director in the world is dead in the water without ideas, without other musical influences coming to them. They're dead in the water because what else do they have? What else do they have?
Well, give you a for instance. Ray Chu is a certain kind of musical director, and Ricky Minor is a certain kind, and they are opposites. I talked to a percussion player that was doing a session for Ricky, a live show for Ricky, and Ricky was commenting on the type of hand clap, electric hand clap that he was using. He said that wasn't the one they used on the record. And he had him go through all these hand claps until he heard the one that was closer to the record. He wanted stuff. If you're going to work with Ricky, you better know the record inside and out because he doesn't want anything extra. He wants exactly what was on the record. And Ray Chew is the opposite. He wants the record, but he wants some original input because that's, in his interpretation, that's what music is about. And one thing he would say that I say to my young musicians still to today, music is written on paper, but those are just notes written on paper. You have to turn it into music. You have to bring the life out of it. And that's what Darryl and I have tried to do with the arrangements. But Ray has a tendency of teasing Darryl a lot for whatever reason. And the whole band gets a good laugh out of listening to Ray tease Darryl.
Well, you guys are first call. I mean, we always see Ray Chew chops horns. You did the this big festival, funk festival recently, right?
Yeah. At New Jersey Pack.
Right.
Now, I have to say, since Ray moved to LA for the past 10 years, you know, we don't work with him as much.
Yeah, right.
But before that, for the first 12 years we knew Ray, we were doing everything with him. The gospel show out in LA, what was that called?
Yeah, BET Celebration of
BET
Gospel.
Celebration of
Right.
Gospel.
BET Honors.
BET
And
Honors.
a couple of the BET award shows.
Right.
Everything he did at the Apollo. But now, you know, we work less. But what cracks me up is when he tells Darryl, save that lick right there. Save that for your record. So I'm transitioning this into my record.
Hey, you let me listen to a track. I think it was a Marvin Gaye track you were working on, right?
Oh, yes.
That sounded hot. That was nice. Yeah.
It really isn't a Marvin Gaye song,
Okay.
but it has Marvin Gaye flavor.
Okay.
And Skip Adams or Alfred Adams wrote this rhythm track, and I put some horns on it. And once I started putting the horns, I says, you know what? It sounds a little like Marvin Gaye. When it came time to produce it, I went to H4, Hubert Eves the fourth. And he kept Skip's piano, but he redid a lot of the other stuff to simplify, because Skip is another one that likes to fill up all of the holes and just make the track busy. So H4 cut the parts down. I approached Ryan Anthony, who's a vocalist from the Jersey City area. Has been singing with a little bit of everybody for many years. And he and I worked in a wedding band with Pat Johnson for maybe 3 or 4 years. And I would drive him to the weddings from Jersey City. I approached him and he came up with the vocal hook. And that's the only words in the entire song. I told him the name. I wanted to call it Marvin Stay because I felt Marvin Gaye obviously died too young. And he came up with a 4-line hook, and that's the only words in the song.
Well, speaking of, you mentioned wedding gigs and corporate gigs. You know, right before the pandemic, I retired from the mobile DJ gig. When you're doing gigs like that, how tempting is it to work the chops songs in it into maybe just a little bit of the mix?
Well, to make you laugh, and this is another opposites between me and Darryl. Darryl prefers working with live bands.
Oh, okay.
And for the past 6 or 7 years, I've preferred working with DJs, where I go in, I clip on a microphone to an alto saxophone. I interact and dance with the audience, play whatever I want, and leave. Opposed to going to rehearsals, learning songs that we already know, and having to wait for the drummer or bass player to learn his parts. I've just gotten to the age where I don't enjoy that anymore.
Now, as an addendum to that, I work with live bands, but I don't do rehearsals. I play whatever I want, and I don't wait for people to learn parts. So I mean, if I go to rehearsal, it's to, it's just to keep abreast of what the band is doing.
Right.
But I'm the only horn player,
Mhm.
so I'm not dealing with a horn section. So I have basically the freedom to musically come in whenever, play whatever I feel, because I also have gotten to the age where that doesn't appeal to me anymore.
Hey, we're all talking about age these days, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
But
just
let me
hit
finish,
60,
let me
yeah.
finish the thought on the DJs.
Yeah.
So obviously they don't play chops music, but they do play Grandmaster Flash and Sugar
Oh.
Hill.
Mhm.
And I'm afraid to tell these young DJs that that's me on the record, because then they said, "What is this old guy doing out working with us? We're young and fresh, yo.
Right.
You don't need these old men." So some of them I will tell, and some of them I don't. And ladies and gentlemen, when it comes to working with DJs, yes, I lie about my age.
But but the other side of that, the bands that I've played with,
Yeah.
and I tell them, and they find out. First of all, I usually don't. They usually already know my history and who I've worked with and all of that, and what I've done and my body of work as an arranger. And then when they hear about it, these bands that are younger, they ask me, well, so what are you doing here? What are you doing? Why are you playing with us? And I tell them, look, a gig is a gig. I said, I played at the worst places that you could ever seen, and I played at the biggest arenas that you've ever seen. But in the end, the only thing that's coming out of any of these shows is the music, and that's the common denominator, and that's what I do.
And nothing beats the money pays good for those kind of gigs too. At least for DJs, it did.
Yeah. And I concur with Darryl. I have my horn in my face. Okay, maybe I have to play some songs I'm not that crazy about, but I can play whatever I like. The horn is in my face, and I'm interacting with the audience, and that's an important thing. But you spoke a little bit about Marvin Stay. I also want you to know that we just came out of the studio recording an Al Jarreau classic.
Oh, wow. Which one you do?
We did Morning. I'm on in Mr. Radio. Right?
That was a great record. Yeah.
Darryl wrote
as an instrumental, we did it as
yeah. And I played flute, melody, and Freddie Hendrix. Our trumpet player is playing flugelhorn on that, but he's also playing trumpet in the section. So Darryl wrote such a beautiful horn arrangement, because that song you can dig your teeth into, because that's really nice changes and you can do a lot with it. So my problem now is trying to edit it to the point for
radio.
Yeah, for smooth jazz radio. Because the song is almost 6 minutes long.
Oh, okay. Yeah, you got to get down to 4 or something.
Yeah, and all the juicy parts come in the second half of the song, because we flipped it. We played the melody and stuff, and then we flipped it. Now,
hey, before you, go ahead. Finish your thought.
I was just going to say that I've decided on my smooth jazz journey to play mostly flute. Like I mentioned, it's called Tip My Hat. And my dad used to always say that he thought I was a flute player that wanted to play saxophone.
Oh, okay. Yeah.
So,
yeah, you guys come from some great heritage in music. And I wanted to ask you, because going back to when you guys first met, as far as practicing your craft, which one of you was more John Coltrane practicing all day and all night?
Well, I mean, I'll have to say, well, I don't know. I don't know, as far as like before I met Dave, but I mean,
honest guy, right?
it would have had to be me, because, when I was in high school, I mean, I played, in the, a band, local band. And I learned improvisation through, well, the old school way. I listened to, people like Maceo Parker, Gene Ammons, Coleman Hawkins. I listened to them, and I would copy their solos note for note, and because I liked the way they sounded, and so that gave me an idea of what to play in the different keys, and that's how I learned improv, right? And I didn't know anything about chord changes. This was in high school. I didn't know anything about chord changes or chords or anything like that. Now, when I got to Jersey City State, New Jersey City University now, but when I got there and I was a music major, I was so, it was like culture shock from being in high school, from being, the best sax player in town to, meeting all these people from all over who were like as good as and better than me. And so that's when my focus really got into my playing. I quit my girlfriend. I said, look, I ain't got time. I ain't got time for women. I ain't got time for any. I just got the time to do this. I ain't got to.
I always said about the ladies, man. I'm sorry.
I always make the joke I could have been a Major League Baseball player if I didn't start dating. Dave, you were the opposite as far as the ladies were still there, right? I could have
been a contender. I was partying my ass off in college. Meeting all the girls, hanging out, going to the clubs. And when I was in high school, my dad would say, yo, you need to put on some of these jazz records and learn the solos. And I was like, but Dad, I want to be an original. How can I be an original if I'm copying somebody? And he was the type of father that was like, well, that's what you think, huh? He said, no, that doesn't work. But if that's what you want to try, you're a young man now, so you got to make your own choices. That was the worst decision of my life. Get to college, and like Darryl said, man, those guys chewed me up and spit me out. The only thing I had going for me was a good ear and a decent feel because of my genes. So it was a task for me. So with my practicing in college, the freshmen that I came in with, I could not play on their level until I was a junior in college. So it took me 3 years to kind of catch up, and I've been playing catch up all my life.
Did you guys commute to college or live on site?
Yeah, I did.
Yeah, I commuted also.
Oh, okay. Yeah. So
my high school chorus director begged me to go to Berkeley in Boston.
Oh, yeah.
But I was scared. I was scared to leave home at that age. I'm gonna keep it real, and I kind of wish I did. But then on the other hand, if I would have, I never would have met Darryl. And he and I formed a friendship and a musical bond that carried us to now 40 plus years.
Yeah.
I have to stop saying 30 plus years.
Yeah, when I was, brushing through the bio of things I didn't know, and I saw 30, I said, wait a second. No, it's longer than that.
Since 1978.
Wow. And you did a little stint out in Los Angeles, right? You were working with Patrice Russian?
I lived there for a year. I was a copyist, and I did also lead sheet preparation for A&M and Motown Records, and I was in the Richard Pryor Show band. This is before Chops, and I also was in Patrice Russian's band, and just doing, and just basically doing that, getting my feet wet in the business, kind of.
It made it back to the tri-state area, right? And
after I got into P-Funk, and I didn't have to live in LA in order to be in P-Funk. But I tell you, I mean, I learned a lot in LA. Now, if I'd have stayed in LA, I don't know that I would have met Dave. I knew him at that point, but we wouldn't have formed a business relationship, I don't think. You know, I'd have just, you know, because, you know, I had a horn section out there, but, you know, so it's to say, you know, just like he said, he wouldn't have met me, you know, I wouldn't have, you know, I mean, I've known him, I've known him, but we wouldn't have had a business relationship. No, probably not.
Well, a lot of people don't know, because I've been watching some interviews on Instagram with different gospel folk.
Okay.
And a lot of people don't know is that was one of the genres that we got our start.
Oh, okay. Gospel music.
Yeah, we were working for Savoy Records with Milton Bingham, and James Perry was playing keyboard, and we went to college with him. But Milton Bingham and I think John Daniels,
Yeah.
they were executives at Savoy Records. And so we recorded for Genovia Jeter, Glenn Jones, the Institutional Gospel Choir, the Five Blind Boys,
James Cleveland.
We were doing a lot of stuff. And Darryl was doing a lot of the arrangements at the time. Because I really wasn't that good of an arranger, you know, my first couple of years in college. And we used some of our college mates, like Rick Freestadt and Doug Rothhauser. And Darryl was working with us, and he was working in Philly with Marvin Daniels and Melvin L. doing top 40 stuff sessions. And it was Darryl's idea. He said, look, Dave, if you put these guys in the section and get rid of your college friends, we'll get more work, because I can give them the gospel stuff, and then I can give you the top 40 stuff that we're doing. And that's what we did. And once the four of us played together, it was magic. And we knew we had something special.
Great decision to forge that way. Yeah. I got to also ask you a few. One of them's from my brother, Bob Dylan. You worked with Bob Dylan on a record. Where did you record that?
In New York.
Yeah,
was it the Hit Factory?
Yeah, I think it was the Hit Factory.
Oh, okay.
I was going to say the Power Station, but no, was it?
It was one of the two.
Yeah, and it was, you know, because it's a major studio, you know. Yeah, it was on. It was, the song was called "Now I See the Real You at Last," and it was on the Empire Burlesque album.
Empire Burlesque, yeah. And I remember it because it was a milestone for me in Chops to be in, you know, a studio of that caliber with a gentleman of that caliber. Bob Dylan, come on.
Yeah. Oh, he was there for the whole recording?
Yeah, Bob Dylan came to the session.
Yeah. With his girlfriend.
With
his black girlfriend.
With a heavy set black girl and a bottle of J.
He almost married Mavis Staples.
Oh, really? I didn't know that.
Yeah, they were. I think Mavis Staples. I had her on the show years ago, and she was talking about Bob. You know, they're still good friends, but yeah. So
my best Bob story, which I happened to tell to Mick Jagger, and he tried to emulate Bob. So I'm soloing, and Bob's like, "Nah, I didn't really like what you played." He said, "But you need to think of New York in the evening on a rainy night with taxi cabs passing." He painted this whole picture about New York City.
Wow.
And I started trying to think of those things when I was playing, and he wound up keeping the solo. So same thing happened with Mick. I did a solo for him, and he was like, and I said, well, you know, Bob Dylan painted me a picture and this and that. So Mick tried to do the same thing. The picture he painted wasn't very colorful at the time, and he wound up using Dave Sanborn.
Oh, okay.
You know, I mean, we did the record for him.
Yeah.
And when it came out, I'm looking on the back, the credits, and it says tenor solo. I saw Dave. I'm like, yes, I'll be able to get more endorsements. And it said Dave Sanborn. I was like, Dave Sanborn. And when you listen to the solo, it was sound effects. Dave wasn't playing lines. He was playing sound effects. So Mick was looking for something totally different. And obviously I couldn't give it to him. And
If-
boys and girls,
Yeah.
that's another thing about this business. You better have some tough skin, because you are going to get more rejections than you could imagine. And if you let them deter you, you'll never survive.
Yeah, you're gonna have a mountain, be standing on a mountain of no's before you get one yes. So
Wow, that's pretty deep there. Yeah.
yeah.
So check the feelings to the door, right? When you go in.
Yeah, but one optimistic note is that you don't need 1 million people to love what you're doing. You just need one person, the one person, to like what you're doing. If you can make Mick Jagger or a Sting or someone influential to like what you're doing, then that's going to go a long way. I mean, it doesn't mean you're going to be a star, but it just means that will go a long way in helping you.
Well, my latest Sting story, as you know, we did the Ghost in the Machine tour, and we traveled on and off with them for 13 months. And then on their next record, they decided to use background singers. But I forged a good relationship with Sting. And years later, we were doing something that Ray Chu was a musical director. Remember the name of the show?
Yeah, it was it was at the Waldorf Astoria in New York, and it was for a foundation that fundraiser for a foundation that Katie Couric founded, in memory of her husband who died from cancer.
Right. Yep.
Yeah. Right. And it was $5,000 a ticket. All right. The place was packed. They had all kinds of entertainers, and I could go into a whole story about a lot of them, but I'm not.
Positive or negative?
A little bit of both.
Okay.
But the Sting story is he came on, and we're at rehearsal and we're going through all the stuff, and the guitar player.
The guitar player.
Yeah. He was the co-MD. It was Ray and the dude from Chic.
Oh,
Nile Rodgers.
Nile Rodgers.
Right.
Yeah. Old age is tough, kids. So Nile Rodgers was kind of the co-man, but he had a very keen ear, and he was checking everybody out to make sure everybody was on point. All right. So we play the Sting stuff. And Sting says, everything sounds good, but I don't know about those horn dudes, right? And Nile has this look like, oh, fuck. What? He was upset. Right. So Darryl and I start laughing, and we get up and start walking towards Sting, and the background vocals are giving us this look like, what are they going to do? Are they going to start a fight? So we walked over and we all locked and started hugging each other and started laughing. That's when they realized we knew Sting, and the background vocals were upset that we got to hug him, by the way. They were jealous. Sorry, girls. So at the show, we do the show, show's over, we're packing up. Now I'm putting my horn away. I'm kind of on my knees, put my horn away, and I feel somebody behind me getting kind of close. I'm figuring it was the stage crew trying to rush me off stage. So I look around angrily and was about to say, hey, man, give me a minute. And I look, and it's Sting. And I'm like, Sting, the show's over, man.
Get in your limo.
Yeah, what are you doing here? He said, oh, Dave, I just wanted to hang out a little bit to say goodbye to you guys.
Wow.
And little things like that, mean an awful lot, And so that's my Sting story.
Yeah. Speaking of good guys, we became friends with him as well. Bernie Worrell, who you worked together on the Chops and Souls record. How far did you guys go back with Bernie? And maybe talk a little bit about your relationship with Bernie.
Well, I knew about Bernie. Back in Well, in the 70s is when, you know, because he lives in Plainfield. I live in Rahway, you know, we're only 20 minutes away. I played with a lot of bands from Plainfield. So I knew about Bernie. I didn't formally meet Bernie until I got into P-Funk. And I knew Fred before I knew Bernie. But I didn't formally meet Bernie until I got into P-Funk, you know, and that was back in 77. And you know, Bernie, he's a great guy, you know. I mean, he loves everybody. I mean, if Bernie doesn't like you, then there's something wrong with you, because Bernie loves everybody. I can't think of anybody who who doesn't respect Bernie, and who Bernie really genuinely doesn't like. Bernie is, you know, he's, hey man,
and he's a musical genius.
Yeah, he is.
He really made P-Funk who they were with his keyboard stuff, that synthesizer stuff.
Yeah.
Nobody could do that.
Yeah, Bernie always said, he said, I'm not a great soloist. He said, but I am the ultimate second banana, because, you know, and by that he means that he always knows what to put in other people's stuff to make it, you know, to make it, you know, just like when, you know, people have always told us, he said, you know, when we add our horn section to their record, then their record, we turn their B-side into an A-side. And that's what Bernie, that's what Bernie does with any band that he's in, with Talking Heads or whoever. And that's why he, you know, he garnered the respect of, you know, people like Herbie Hancock and Paul Schaefer when he got into the CBS orchestra, you know, when Letterman moved to CBS, you know. You know, Schaefer personally asked him to, you know, and like I said, he's the second banana. He's the guy that puts the icing on the cake, you know. And
well, my Bernie story is only one. Okay. He was in the studio recording for us, and the track is playing, and we didn't really realize that he was ready to record. So he played a couple slick things, and I said, "Oh, stop! Let's record and take it from the top." And Bernie, I've never seen him mad, but he was pissed. He was like, "You want recording?" He said, "Every note I play, you should be in record. When it comes time for somebody to do a solo, I don't care who they are. When they walk in that booth and start playing, you hit that record button."
And that's the exact same thing that George Clinton always does. You know, because when we were recording the Funkadelic album, when I was with him, it was always on record. He never stopped it, because, you know, I mean, he always felt, and I guess Bernie felt the same way, that, you know, a lot of ideas come to you when you're just fooling around, you know, because it's all based on feel. Like you play something, you hear something, and you just play some riff, you know. I mean, even in between songs, you know, you're playing something and which could end up being a song, you know. So
yeah, and same thing with horn arrangements. When I send a song to Darryl for him to do, he won't listen to it until he's ready to record. Yeah, and he uses a little tape recorder to hum licks on. And I've started, I don't do the humming part, but I will not listen to a song too many times before I start writing down ideas. Yeah. And on that note, Darryl and I have been able to sustain chops and sustain a musical career by indie musicians, by a lot of people that nobody knows. And you've played quite a few records, indie records that we're on.
Yeah, Mia Finale. It's great.
Yeah. She's and there's a bunch of gospel stuff that we've done. Our newest project we just finished was for Vernon Crow from V Music. He did a 3-song EPK, and we're on 2 of those. Darryl arranged the first song, the original one, and I arranged Me, Myself, and I, but he calls it Me, Myself, and God, which is a tribute to his father and to Beyonce. And before this interview ends, I would be remiss not to thank and mention all of the indie artists that are out there that are struggling and trying to do their thing. And to all the musicians out there, we have to support each other. When somebody puts out a record, you got to buy it. You know, we can't wait. You know, you can't wait for all of this constant bombardment on social media about people's songs. Once you know the record is out, you got to go out and get it. And, you know, H4, Hubert Eves, the fourth, he put out some great stuff that people didn't know about. Luckily for him, he's learned the game so he can get more plays and get more people turned on to his music. But some of his first earlier songs, if you don't have them, you need to get them because it's some of Chop's best work.
Yeah, there's some really great music out there that's, you know, that indie artists produce. And like you're saying about Mia Finale, you know, she had said that, you know, she kind of vibed us up because, you know, when she was doing her project and she had heard us on record, and she said, if it's the last thing I do, I'm going to get Alicia's horn section on my song.
Yeah, she did say that. Yeah.
She had a dream.
Yeah, right.
Yeah. She dreamt that she got a hold of us.
Right. And so it eventually happened. And then when it did happen, because she had used some horn players before. And then when it did happen and we started playing on her stuff, she was like flabbergasted because she thought that, well, because we played with Alicia Keys and all these other people, you know, the quality of the arrangements that we were going to give her were not going to be up to par, not the way it is with the other artists. And she was pleasantly surprised by the fact that, you know, the way we feel, we don't care who it is. You know, we don't judge the quality of arrangements by who we're arranging for. It's unethical and it's unprofessional.
You wanna be funky like me? You wanna be fly like me?
You don't save your best licks just for
right, exactly.
the big star, right?
It just doesn't make sense. It just does not make musical sense to do that.
So we did a thing, speaking of horn players and speaking of what we do for Sheila E. for Obama's, what was it?
It was the second inauguration.
Second inauguration. He had all these balls around town and we played one. So we rehearsed with Sheila and we're doing what we do. And she says, man, where are these guys from? So we're from the East Coast, yo, because we were in LA. No, we were in Washington.
Right.
And she was like, man, she said, you guys sound hungry. You know, there was an energy level that we played at that she said, because I just came from LA. And them dudes, you know, best musicians around, but they didn't sound like that. So that's been a big pet peeve for us, is to give people the best that we can, no matter who they are. And thinking about giving people their best, I was talking about tipping my hat. Joe Kelley, I have to tip my hat to you because you've been a big supporter of the unsung heroes and the musicians on this record. You must look at liner notes and say, oh, let me see.
Oh, yeah, I did since I was a kid, man. I just Columbia Record Club, getting those liner notes and everything. I mean, we had Sheila on. She just won a Grammy last night.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. But yeah, I appreciate that, you know.
Yeah, Joe, you mean, you know, we need guys like you to recognize what's going on. We appreciate you.
Thanks. Really appreciate that. I got to ask you, you're talking about the new music and art. Where do you guys search for new artists? You're talking about indie artists. Do you have preference where you guys search for artists?
I usually go to YouTube and look at and see videos on, I mean, unless somebody recommends. I don't do Spotify, not for any particular reason. I just I don't do, but different artists that I see on YouTube and also WBGO. I listen to them because I send them money every month. I'm a supporter of WBGOs, and if I see somebody that I like, I contact them. Matter of fact, an artist, Tatiana, Lady May Mayfield. She was I first heard about her BGO. They were doing an interview with her. She's originally from Texas, but she was in Newark as part of the Sarah Vaughan. They have the Sarah Vaughan singing competition, and she won it. Young girl, but she's bad. She graduated from Berkeley. She plays trombone, and she's also a phenomenal singer. And they were playing some of the stuff that she wrote horn wise, and of course showcasing her singing. And I contacted her. I went to Facebook. I found her on Facebook, and I contacted her, and we started talking back, and I ended up using her for one of the things that I re-recorded.
One of the things you think you're not going to hear, but you're going to hear it.
Yeah, there you go. You got the inside track to what's he's putting up a little front, right?
Yeah. I might have to torture him into it.
Yeah.
Or what I really got to do, I'm going to complain to his wife.
That's right.
Because Arlene will make sure he gets something out there.
Right.
As far as music goes, I'm an Apple Music guy, and I'm a BGO guy. And we get a lot of our work from indie artists from word of mouth. Where somebody's, I'd like to put horns on this. Oh man, you might want to contact these chops guys, and that's kind of how that goes.
How did you guys get together with your buddies up in Toronto for Chops and Soul?
Oh, that goes back to LMT.
Oh, okay, LMT, yeah.
Yeah, the LMT is a 3-piece rhythm section that we met when we were touring with Alicia. And
that was in 2005.
Okay.
So we wound up doing a record for them, and then they decided they wanted to go on to do a 10-day tour in Europe on the road, and they took Soul Joe with us. So it was a 4-piece rhythm section, and Darryl and I, and we created a bond that's still very strong today.
Yeah, I love those videos you guys cut.
Oh man,
that's,
Joe's a super talent, and we still got some stuff under our sleeve that we want to do with Joe.
Come on, chops on.
Yeah, before we bid you guys adieu, Mariah Carey, we forgot to talk a little bit about her. You were on one of her records, right?
The Emancipation of Mimi.
Right. How'd you get linked up with Mariah Carey?
Well, okay. What happened was that Randy Jackson was talking with Alicia, and Randy said, "Yeah, well, I'm doing Mariah's next album, and you want to do the horns in New York." So Alicia said, "Oh, you're doing horns in New York? Well, you know what? You're doing horns in New York." Said, "You need to use my guys. You need to." It was Alicia that dropped our name to him.
Right.
And he also knew Artie White, guitar player. So Randy contacted Artie and said, "Hey, Alicia mentioned these Chops guys. What do you think?" And Artie gave us a good recommendation. But what a lot of people don't know is on one of the songs, and maybe two of the songs, Randy had already recorded horns, and he used some really good horn players.
Yeah, in L.A. Yeah,
in LA, but and one of them is from New Jersey. But I don't want to, make guys feel bad, like Dave Sanborn did to me on the
right
on the Rolling Stones record. We did that to them. He got these guys together, great players as individuals, but they weren't a section.
and so they wanted the kind of snatch, put it that we added.
You guys were more reasonable, right?
Well, not financially. It wasn't
okay.
a money thing. When he said snatch, he didn't mean scratch.
Oh, okay.
He meant our sound, like I mentioned with Sheila.
Okay, I got you. Right.
Man, you guys sound hungry.
Yeah, the feel, the really funk, power feel, that machine gun type, funk thing that Randy wanted. They didn't give it to him. So,
And we wound up using the same charts and cutting the exact same parts.
Right, exactly. Yeah.
That these other guys played, but we played it totally different. So when the record came out, I know these brothers went to the record like, yeah, we made it. They turned it over and saw Chop's horns like, what? They're playing our parts. So
and it's almost, you guys have been on the other flip side of the coin. It's almost too late to rectify it, right?
Yeah, I mean, producers do what they want to do.
Yeah,
we had done some stuff for Mick Jagger, and it was produced by, what was the guy with the long hair? It was
the guy with the long hair.
The guy that produced the first stuff, and I started talking in the studio, and Marvin got all pissed off.
Well, the only two, it was Mick Jagger and Ron Wood. Those were the only.
No. The producer. We cut some horns for him that he wrote, and I was saying, man, those horn parts sound like string parts. And he didn't like me from that point on.
I don't remember.
We're gonna do some research before we edit. We put this out there.
Okay, but my story is, he played all these horn parts that sound like string parts, and Mick decided not to use any of his stuff.
Oh,
because he's rich enough to do that.
Yeah.
And this guy was trying to put some stuff out, and he almost had to go to court because, when people don't want your stuff, they paid you for it. So, you just have to kind of back off.
Get that thick skin, as you guys were mentioning.
Yep.
So last question off the top of your heads, any bucket list performers you'd like to collaborate with?
Ooh, bucket list. Oh, yeah. We did a show with Ray in New York at the Dizzy spot. And Jasmine Horn was on that. She was on the show.
Right.
Jasmine
Horn. I love her. Not only is she talented, she's fine. I'm sorry, wifey, but I'm just putting that out there. Yeah, she's really a great jazz vocalist, and I would love to work with her. And I'm going to think, while Darryl comes up with somebody, I'm going to think of somebody else.
Well, I mean, does it have to? You're talking about in any genre of music?
Yeah, any genre of music, or maybe somebody you want to revisit to record with.
One person, Diane Reeves is somebody Diane Reeves is another one that I would like to work with. Now on the fusion side, it's a Russian keyboardist. You heard me mention this. His name is Valery Stepanov.
Yeah,
and I've contacted him too. He plays drums and guitar and keyboards. He's mainly a keyboard player. His stuff is extremely musical, and it's not like it's fusion, but it's not crazy fusion to where you don't know what's going on with no groove or anything like that. But and he's a phenomenal player. Like I said, I've contacted him through Facebook, and he contacted me back. I sent him our stuff, which he liked, and he said he was interested in using us for one of his things. I haven't heard back from him yet, but
what was the fusion guy that we did that you took his rhythm track?
Oh, Oznoy.
Oznoy.
I don't know if you heard of him.
Yeah. Oznoy.
Yeah, right. NOI. Yeah, Oznoy.
Right. Yeah. Darryl took one of his songs and wrote this killer horn arrangement. And I remember it was right towards the end of COVID. Okay. And trying to play those parts on baritone sax helped heal me because they were so difficult. It was so hard to play. And Dennis Chambers sent it around to a lot of guys because he'll do that. If we give Dennis something, he'll start sending it to people.
Yeah, because he said, if you guys do something, send it to me because, like when I talk you guys up, I talk you guys up and all that, but it's always better if I can give them something to hear, rather than talking about it. Yeah. Give them, hearing is believing. Oznoy, I happen to like this track that he did. So I wrote a horn arrangement just because I liked it. And I sent it to Dennis. Now Dennis has worked with Oznoy, several times. And he sent it to Oznoy.
And who else he sent it to?
He sent it to Marcus Miller.
Marcus Miller. Yeah. Matter of fact, Marcus Miller, Dennis sent Marcus Miller a copy of My Morning, the Al Jarreau song.
Right.
Okay.
And he commented, "Who's the flute player?" And when you're reading it, I'm hoping it was on the positive.
Yeah, right.
Who's the flute player? Not who's the flute player?
That he screwed that up.
Who is that guy? But Joe, I'm going to send you a copy of it.
Okay, cool. Yeah, whatever you guys, whatever you guys have in the can ready to go, man. You never disappoint the both of you,
Oh, thank you.
So thanks for the incredible musicianship, and hopefully we got a lot more years to go and still passionate about what we do, right?
Amen.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
All right, go to chopshorns.com. We'll have the links right in the description. You can read all about the bio. You'll be really amazed what Darryl Dixon and Dave Watson, the Yes Yes Man, have done throughout their careers and continue to do. So look forward to more great horn parts from you guys.
Oh, I got to give a shout out to Bill McGee in Virginia because he did all that Sugar Hill stuff with us and the OJs and other people.
Oh, okay.
And he always says we never mention him. Bill McGee, we mentioning you, man.
Bill McGee, right? Did you ever do a tour with Grandmaster Flash?
No.
Nope.
I saw them at a Budweiser Superfest years ago. Yeah, but it was probably just
who's the trombone player? Robin Eubanks. He played on a lot of stuff with us too.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
So shout out to Robin Eubanks, Bill McGee.
Yep. When Melvin Hill, the original bone player, when he was having some chop problems, he had to have his teeth done.
Okay.
So during that time when he couldn't play, Robin came in and
he played on quite a few hits.
Yeah, even the Rolling Stones hit he played with us on.
Yeah.
Harlem Shuffle, you guys did, right?
Yeah, we did it. Yeah.
All right. Thanks, Darryl Dixon, Dave, Doc Watson, man. You guys are incredible. We love you. And, come by the show, whenever you guys are free.
Sounds good. Once I'm ready to release Marvin Stay, I will be calling you.
You got it. You got a friend right here. And you too, Darryl.
Yep.
If it comes out of the can. Yeah. Okay. Thanks, guys. Appreciate it.
Thank you.
You're welcome.